Hello and welcome back. It's been a long time since I made one of these videos, but today's the day. I think it's my first video of 2024 and it is the 7th of March, so it's taken a bit of time to get back into it, but life is such that this is just the way it is. And although last year and the year before had plenty of time to focus on chess and it was quite a priority for me, unfortunately it didn't end up winning the Canberra Chess Club Championship. But this year, that's not my goal at all. My goal is to enjoy, still to learn, of course, hopefully improve, but it will be a little bit more sparse with how often I can play these games. There will be some other good announcements coming up for the channel soon, but for today, let's just settle in and play some chess, see if I still remember how to play. My rating at 1750, I'm imagining it's going to be a bit of a kind of difficulty to sort of jump straight back into that level, but we'll see. And I'm going to play d4, which I don't often play. Normally I play e4 to start with, but let's mix it up. Let's just mix it up, and we'll develop the knight. No need to do anything crazy. c5 played, very standard. And here I think it's very natural to develop my knight. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll try and sort of have an instinct for when I need to stop and think. I don't think we're at that point yet. If he takes here, I think we just play this, threatening that, and he won't be able to play a move like this to support the pawn because we have that square under control. So as far as I'm aware, we're all good. I'll probably play this next and then try and get castled. I think that would be very normal. Although given the way he's played that, I could also play this bishop out to one of these squares. Bishop g5 could be a goer. And after a move like this, even takes, seems attractive because it wins a pawn, at least temporarily. But it does give him a very strong bishop along this diagonal. But even if I don't take, even just this, and then e3, let's say castles, bishop d3, takes, bishop takes, and then the knight comes out, I castle, the bishop comes out. I could probably get it. I think that's probably fine, so I'll try this. We'll try this. Chess.com telling me that this is the Queen's Gambit declined, semi-Tarrasch, Pillsbury variation. So I can only assume that this is a legitimate variation to play. And he takes here, c takes d4. I've obviously got, if I want to recapture, I've got two possibilities. And of the two, if I take with the queen, my queen's going to be hit with a tempo. So I'm probably just on that note alone going to take with my knight. Don't really see a reason why I shouldn't just take with the knight there. So we take back. Now my bishop is in fact undefended now that my knight has moved. It used to defend here, but it doesn't anymore. And now he takes the pawn. Now, as mentioned, I'm under the impression I could play something like e3, maybe even e4, to put some pressure on maybe saying e5. But either way, opening my bishop towards his c4 pawn. And how could he actually defend this pawn? Well, one way would be with the queen. Well, I don't think that way would necessarily work so well for him, for a variety of reasons. To start with, I can take here, and when he takes back, I can use one of my knights to hit the queen, make it move, and maybe play from there. But if I wanted to, I could also just play check. And after he deals with the check in one way, shape, or form, I could use my queen to gather that. So I think I am fine doing this, and I think that goes even if he plays something like this. I can then play check and take. So yeah, I can still win this pawn. I think we've established that now. Question is, do I want to play e3 or e4? That's really the question. Kind of getting the feeling of playing e4. Let's say he then plays actually this to put pressure on my bishop. Is e4 going to become a weakness for me in future that I might have to play something like f3, maybe. It's hard to say. I could try and put pressure on this knight also like this. And then if this is played, I can take, ruin his pawn structure, have two strong central knights, and then play e3, knowing that it's something I have to do. This is one of the key things in chess, is which move has to be played of the various moves. Now, when I think about things in that manner, we also should think in checks and captures. There's no checks, so let's think of capture. If he takes with the queen, then, I don't know, but it's also possible to play something like this immediately, for what that's worth. Threatening a queen trade. If we trade queens, then I'm threatening to land a fork, which is nice. You can defend the fork, so look, I am thinking about probably one of these two moves predominantly. Let's say this. I think it's the more ambitious. So what's he going to do after e4? Let's just say he plays this. I take the bishop. I take the pawn back. He castles. And then I castle. Is my position slightly loose? It feels slightly loose. What about take? He takes with the queen. As mentioned, we then have this move, hitting the queen. Not sure I love that. I'm kind of looking at e4. I really am thinking at e4. My knight defends e4. Of course, he can just pin my knight, but this knight itself is pinned. He can't use the queen to come at that pawn. In future, though, I am just a bit afraid that this pawn might become weak and require the assistance of another pawn, and that might ultimately expose my king. So, actually probably more thinking about this move, potentially. Let's see, this is the moment where I need to think a bit. If this is played, then check is a bit annoying. Very annoying, in fact. I'd really have to come back like this. Because if I came back to here, so let's say I come here, putting pressure on the knight. He goes check, and I can't jump back here, because then he would be able to scoop in with taking this. So I don't actually like this move, that's good to know. Rook c1 could be good. I think, though, I really think the more natural move is one of these two. This move is good. It does prop up the knight with another defender. That's nice in and of itself. It attacks the pawn, which is nice in and of itself. It allows the queen out, potentially. So this is definitely I think definitely a nice move. It's a little bit of a matter of, is e4 better? Gaining that bit of extra space. e4, let's say this, pressuring this pawn. I will end up probably having to play this f3 move. I don't like that. I'm going to be a little bit more patient, and I'm going to play e3. Patient play. To be sure, to be sure. Alright, he does not much, so now I will take this back. I don't see a problem with regathering the pawn. He'll probably castle. I'll probably then castle too. And we have a game on our hands. If he ever plays this move, I'm probably going to want to actually retreat. And if he continues pushing, come back. If he then chases me further, I've actually even got this square. But kind of not really. So he would ultimately be able to take my bishop. If he really wants to. I could go take, he takes back, then jump my knight over attacking his bishop. If he takes there, I take, he takes, I take. That pawn should be okay. What else can I do here? Now I wonder if he's likely to play this. If I then played this, take, take, that sort of reminds me of a very sharp variation from the exchange version of the Ruy Lopez. I'll show that after the game. But this idea where you actually give the bishop up, and after he takes, in recapturing, A, you win a pawn, B, you pressure his knight, and C, you open a big kingside attack. So something like that could be really actually quite interesting. Something like this to start, and then even if he plays this, I can drop the bishop this way. So that this can be met with takes, takes, takes. I like that. Let's try that. Now, I still might castle this way in future. Kind of an odd move. Strikes me as odd. My position sort of strikes me as odd. You know, first game back in several months. Probably not too surprising to have a slightly odd position. I think if I move my knight back here, it'd feel a bit more normal. But it doesn't need to feel normal. It doesn't need to feel normal at all. We need to consider concrete factors. And I think when considering concrete factors in this particular game, things are going okay. I have a lot of space, that's for sure. I haven't yet castled my king. And I think the reason it feels a bit strange is because where am I going to castle my king? If I castle over here, I've already pushed this pawn forward. It could be a little bit dangerous. And if I castle over this side, then maybe that's dangerous too. But, on the other hand, I've got a bit of an attack, you know, potentially in play. And here he's strengthened my bishop towards his king. That's the effect of this move. Also, he's given me a chance to return my knight to this square, stabilizing my position in a way, with an attack on the pawn and an attack on the queen. So I don't mind this move. If we trade queens, fine, my rook comes to the center. There's still pressure on this pawn. If he attacks my knight further, well, then I can take that. And when he recaptures, I can take this. So I kind of think I'm not too afraid of just dropping back here. He might want to pin my knight there. But I take the queen. He takes. And then the pin is off and I can win the pawn. So I'm just going to drop back. If he takes, I'll take. Okay, he moves this way. Now, he's giving me this pawn, and he's attacking this pawn instead. He's also moving very quickly, I note. Which is fine, move quickly. I can take here, and when he takes back, I can drop my knight here, which would be possibly interesting. If he takes this pawn, I take here, check, he takes. But, you know, taking this is quite an interesting possibility too. He might want to bring his rook over. It might be what he's looking at. But I've always got this move, which I can play right now as well, by the way. I can play this move, offering a queen trade, simplifying the position to some extent, still having pressure on this pawn. And again, if he plays this, I can take, take, take. So I think this actually could be a nice move to play. Threatening just to ruin his pawn structure a bit, seeing where he goes. Seeing where he goes with that. Of course, I can take here as well first, potentially. Again, there's take this too. And then if he comes here, then I can bring this here, but he would be able to take. So if I take this and he takes this, I may then have to play a move like this to protect my knight. In that position, I've got some pressure here. Do have some pressure. This pawn is pinned, so I can be aware of that anyway. You know, let's say take. I mean, I could also just castle, to be honest. Castle, he comes here. And then I jump up here, which this could be a move straight away anyway. Hitting the queen, hitting the bishop, hitting the knight. So if the queen just comes down here, well then I take this with check. If he tries to pin me to my queen, again, I just take with check. So this could be a move, and if he takes, then I take back, threatening his bishop still. If he trades bishops, I take. There's a lot of pressure here for him. I think my position's probably not too bad. I'm not sure if I really need to worry about this pawn. But what do I do? Where do I prioritize? Do I just castle? Do I simply castle here? Do I just take this central pawn and then give him this pawn? And then perhaps my response there could be this, where everything's actually defended. I'm attacking this bishop, attacking this knight. I kind of like that. I kind of like this, so we're going to try it. We're going to try it. He takes. And, ooh, I see the error of my ways, but I don't think it's a big error. If I play this, he can take my knight. Okay then, with that little discovery, what if I start like this? Take, take, take. He comes here. Take, take. Eventually I'd have a check. Or I could go take, and when he takes... Okay, look, maybe not the best move of all time. There's always this move, as I had previously mentioned. There's also not that move, because it drops the rook. Castles drops the knight. This move drops the knight. Unfortunately. There's check. And after he takes, I take. It's generally not advisable to give up two pieces for the rook and the pawn. Generally. So let's say take, take. Take. Or what if we even start with this take? Then he's going to start here with check. In fact, even if we do this, he's going to start with check. So I think we kind of have to play this move. So that's what we'll do. We'll play this move. And although we've given a pawn, the reason I wasn't afraid to defend this pawn is because grandmasters often talk about the importance of activity of your pieces. And they often sacrifice a pawn like this in the corner of the board where you're going to probably castle the other way anyway in order to maximize your piece activity. And at the moment, my piece activity is kind of relatively nice for the sake of him having played a couple of queen moves and just having this queen kind of in no man's land in a way. At least that's the basic thinking here. Now, with his bishop no longer here, he's not defending this square anymore, which is very interesting to me because now check. Check, can he meet it with the rook capture? I don't think so, because then I've got this check. Then the rook has to come back. When the rook comes back, I don't have this check. So I might want to take here first. But then he's going to take. Take. So that's not necessarily great. I can play this, but then he's going to take and take. Take's not too bad. I don't think, but yeah, kind of feels like I'm close to something, but I just can't use this knight, unfortunately, because of the pin. I could think about sacrificing it, giving him the knight, and then playing this capture. Seems like it could be pretty dangerous for him. I'm so low on time, unfortunately. I'm sure this would be a blunder, but for the sake of interest, if I then come here, no, I think I'd better defend. I better just defend. Alright, I'll just defend. See if we can make up some time here. I thought I might have had something there. Maybe I did. Probably misplayed it. But that's okay. We'll play on. We'll just play on. We get an extra 10 seconds per move. If he's going to take here, I'll take back as well. That more or less goes without saying. It's nice that my bishop here is defended. Okay, so he's adding an extra attacker there, which makes a lot of sense for him. Now, I'm not sure if I've got a way to really defend this any further at this point, sadly. But then again, maybe I can. Maybe I can. Let's just try this. We have to try something. What I'd love to do is my rook to take this bishop somehow. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here with my remaining time. But yeah, we'll see where I went wrong. First game back, it's kind of bound to happen. Probably part of where I went wrong was spending, 5.5 minutes on a single move in certain circumstances, etc. So now I'm going to take this. And now I'll just castle. Threatening the knight, so he's probably going to have to take. It's probably not as bad as what we might have thought, to be honest. Let's say he takes, and then I bring the other rook over. Problem is there, he's up a full piece already. He's up a full piece, and even if I take the knight, take, he'll end up being up some material. Maybe not tons of material, but some. What else after he takes? Is there another way for me to do this? I mean, there's this. He comes back. Doesn't necessarily help. Yeah, so he's going to play that. Maybe what I do is I try and open everything up. Now, looks like he can just take the pawn. But remember, if he does, he drops this bishop. So that's my idea, and I'm trying to see if maybe I can get everything rushing towards his king quickly. Maybe I can, maybe I can't, we'll see. But how about now this move? Let's say he takes. I take, he takes. It looks like everything's probably going to be defended for him there, unfortunately. So I can come back. That attacks this knight, but after he does this... So, okay, I'll just defend the pawn. I'll defend the pawn. This might be a future idea. He probably will move this knight now, just to get out of any of these troubles. And then maybe I'll play my rook across somewhere like this. No, he moves the knight there. That's interesting. Definitely thinking about this move now. It's my first instinct. But then he's probably going to play this. So I could try this move too. Well, look, I'll play this. It's my first instinct. And if he does play back, I'll just jump up here. Oh, check. Yeah, I missed that. I missed that. Yeah, I mean, totally lost position. I should resign and get on with life. But let's see. Let's just see what happens. I've got absolutely no counterplay, unfortunately. But hey, this was the first game back. Maybe I'll resign and we'll do another game, hey? We'll see what happens over the next couple of moves and then we'll go for it. Yeah, just moves back. Just moves back. That would be a killer move now. All right, I'm just going to resign. Just really quickly, I'll show you that exchange version of the Ruy Lopez that I was considering earlier. There's a very, very cool version of the Ruy Lopez where it goes, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop takes, pawn takes. I think castles, bishop g4, and then I think here it goes h3, threatening the bishop, but rather than move the bishop, there's this move h5. If you take the bishop, they take back, winning a pawn with an attack on the knight, and really you have to give the knight back. No matter where you put the knight, you're then going to run into all sorts of troubles along this opened h-file. As well as with the bishop here. So if you try and make an escape square for the king with something like this, then for example bishop c5 doesn't really help your cause. So that's the kind of thing I was thinking of in this game when I played the move. Where were we? When I played this move here. Now, he hadn't yet played h6, but I was anticipating that he might, and that's the reason that I wanted to give myself that option. So I played this move immediately to prevent h6 from being an issue. He then played this move. I thought I was doing fine here, and indeed knight f3 is the correct move, and indeed I am doing fine. After he moves the queen, I think I had a lot of options. And ultimately what I should have done was anything other than what I did do. Taking the pawn, still not bad. Not bad at all. In fact, the position's still better for me. And rook c1's correct. Once again, position is still perfectly fine. So as I had intuited, the piece activity here is actually really good for me. I think I just probably didn't respond to this well, or maybe I did. It says here I should just castle. Whereas I went for what I thought was a simple trade, and ultimately it turned out to be a mistake because after the trades, he had the ability to pile on pressure on the pinned piece. Elementary error, and from there, of course, it's lost. But what I could have done here would have been just castle, and then even though he takes this on c3, the idea then is you take on f7. This might be dangerous for him. His best move here is knight b to d7, preventing my queen from ever being able to come up here. But now you can go knight back to d6. That's check. King has to move to h8. And at the very least, there's this nice move. Check. King comes back. And you can either repeat in a variety of ways, or you can go knight e5, check. Again, say the king moves. You can always just come back. At the very least, you've got a draw. One other moment I wanted to check in this game was actually earlier with that decision I spent a long time on. This one, playing either e3 or e4. Ultimately, I went with e3, and the computer agrees that that would have been good. e4 would have given... Oh no, e4 actually was the better move. Computers seems to be a bit confused. They're very much equivalent though. And I think given that they're equivalent, it didn't justify spending 5 minutes of time on it. Well, there we go. Let's go again. I want to play another game. You know, let's try and pick up a feel for the game again whilst we have a chance. This time I'll play e4, kind of go back into what I'm more comfortable with. You never know, maybe we'll get that variation of the Ruy Lopez here. We've got a Ruy Lopez on board. If we see a6, we'll see an exchange. And now, after the take, I'll castle, and we do in fact have this move. Well, I'm going to play h3. We're probably going to see h5 on board. And this is going to be a really great game for us to look at. He actually takes. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's probably not accurate. The question is for me, how do I want to recapture? Because it's not something I've ever really encountered before. Now, I can really only think of taking with the queen. I don't think there's really a need to ruin my pawn structure. So we'll do that. We can consider playing moves like this in future. Lots of moves we can consider playing. I can swing my queen over here with tempo at the moment. I can also swing my queen here with tempo at the moment. I like both of those things. This tempo move kind of in particular strikes me as possible, but I'm going to play this because I think this is one of those moves that needs to be played basically anyway to get my bishop out. Okay. Now this move comes with tempo, and if he castles, then I can follow up like this. I don't see an issue with that. I'm just going to look at it for a brief moment as well again. Looks fine. Coming in with tempo and preventing what he wants to do, which is to castle. Because then we play this, he can't take the bishop because of the pin. And if he pushes this forward, we take the rook. If he does absolutely nothing, we go in with checkmate. So I'm going to play this and we'll see, have I missed something? Okay, you can land there, I suppose. Suppose you can land there, that's okay. What if I play this? Then you take the bishop, and then I play this, because your knight's pinned as well. Your knight's pinned. In doing so, you've won a bishop. I'm winning a knight. You can then bring your, say, queen in. Take, you take, I take, you take. It's probably pretty even. Because the good thing for me is there my rook gets active. You could also give a check there, which might be slightly annoying for me to deal with in the future. So maybe I don't necessarily want to do that. Maybe I want to bring this bishop back. Maybe I even want to bring it here. Lots of different options in this kind of a position. I think this option is pretty reasonable, just to cover this nice long diagonal and then prepare this in future. Takes, 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 takes. Would that be bad for me? This is how rusty I am at the moment. If I could play this move, after he takes, I take bishop, he takes bishop. No, that would be bad for me, so probably am more tempted to play this. Let's go for it. And after he takes, I take. I mean, I essentially take because I pin his piece and he won't be able to. He might end up winning a pawn, he might not, but you have to also realize his pawn structure is not going to be good. My pawn structure will be fine. And although he can give a check, whatever, I can just move to the side. My pawn structure will be fine. But interesting, I'm really, really glad we got this variation. One of the reasons I'm glad we got this variation is because one of the things we're going to be doing on this channel this year is exploring some of the chess of Australia's best grandmaster. That is Grandmaster Anton Smirnov, who happens to be a friend of the channel. And he recently played a game in the FIDE World Rapid Championship, where all the top players were playing. And he played a game against a FIDE master in the exchange Ruy Lopez, and he was playing from the white side. And we're going to analyze that game firstly on our own, and then we might actually get Anton to come in and give us his thoughts on how he played and won that game against a FIDE master with a formal rating of 2400 or something along those lines. Okay, so now he's played a move that I didn't expect. Once again, I'm very rusty. I can't take the pawn because after take, I'm just going to be down quite a lot of material, or down an exchange at least. If I do this, there's this, which is a bit annoying. So I've given a pawn already. Can't say I'm very pleased about having done so. And now if he takes, I don't have any real counterattack. If I do this, he's going to take like so, but I don't have any other choice. I can't let him take my bishop for free, so I'm in a worse position here. Again, very rusty, this is to be expected, but we'll get there in the end. So now I'm coming back here, and if he takes, okay, I take, I admit I was wrong, you can have a pawn. Nothing really I can do about that. Okay, so he's attacking my queen, but he's giving me this pawn, interestingly. He would then play this fork move, I imagine, but after take, I can't really do much about that. If I take, there's the fork, that's the issue. It's not an issue of this, although that's also an issue. I think what I probably have to do is just come back. I'll just come back. Here again, there's the fork, but maybe I'm just going to bring my bishop back this way. So yeah, this isn't really going to plan. Maybe I could have played this move, although I'm not so sure what good that would have done me. So we're not doing too well here. Now we have to bring the bishop back. That more or less goes without saying. We can think about where we want to bring the bishop. It's not really clear to me. Yes, this prevents one check, but it also blocks this. Here might be a nice move. You know, even if he gives the check, I move away. The moment he pushes that pawn forward. Alright, look, I'll play the natural move. I'll block the checking diagonal. If he plays this, I can just take. So he doesn't want to do that. And we'll just play on. It's not by any stretch of the imagination a disaster, because actually in the long run, his king is actually quite open. My king's not necessarily completely safe either, but all I'm saying is it's not a total disaster despite the inaccuracy. It'd be really nice to win this game and gain that extra 10 points and go a bit closer back up to 1750 again. But again, to be expected, haven't played in a long time, gonna be rusty. And so far, I think this video has been going for about 38 minutes. I don't think I've really thought about almost any variations yet, so that might be part of the problem. Let's try and maybe think a bit. I mean, it seems pretty simple to me in a way that I need to develop my knight. This is a very natural square. This square is also natural, but from here I don't have a lot of prospects. Everything's either taken by my own pieces or covered by his pawns, or just going nowhere. So, I mean, knight d2 seems like the very natural next move without a lot of thought at all. Connects for rooks, means my knight can come this way or this way. And even if we do get a trade, not the end of the world. Or I can just let my knight sit there. Doesn't have to make it all the way out to the f square just yet. But I can play knight d2 pretty quickly, depending on what he does. Could consider playing a move like d4. d4 can be considered attacking his knight, opening up this diagonal for my king, which actually wins a pawn back as well, by the way. So once this knight moves, and it has to move, And really it's only got some of these squares to go to. This is the only one that blocks the check. So that wouldn't be a check. It'd still be a nice attacking move against the pawn. However, so I kind of like this move. Let's do this move, because I want to actually establish some kind of control in the center. And then we'll consider whether we actually want to still play knight d2 or maybe knight c3 now. Probably still knight d2 and one of these moves in future, but we'll see. And it depends where he puts the knight. You know, if he puts the knight here or here, then check does win me back a pawn and stabilizes the situation, I would say. But even if he comes here, then let's say knight d2, knight f3, and my knight sits on a better square, that being f3, as compared to d2. So probably still knight d2 is a good move to make. You know, my bishop still controls this pawn, so it's not really in any danger. This pawn might become a little bit of a liability, however, at some point. But also we're making him think, and that's good. We should think as well. So, for example, let's say he does move here, and we play knight d2, and then the rook comes here, attacking this pawn. That could be a dangerous situation. My knight does a good job of holding the pawn, but my queen is being sort of x-rayed, and that can be an issue. Moving away with tempo is always a nice option as well. Say he defends the pawn like so. I can then essentially play on from there in one way or another. But it's good we're making him think here. He goes that way, so he's giving me the option of playing this check move. It's going to put him onto these dark squares and allow me to take this pawn, which I think that's what I'm going to do. So there's the check. Moving him onto the dark squares, and we'll take this pawn. Just equalizing the material again. Now we could also consider other moves, but after take, he's got that square defended so many times that, you know, I don't think we really need to seriously consider many other options. If we don't take the pawn, he'll defend it. So I think we take the pawn. We're not in any danger of him attacking this queen because his bishop sits on a dark square, whereas the queen's going to be on a light square, so that's fine. If he attacks it with his queen, well, we take his queen. And we're kind of defended by his own pawns, like so his rooks can't attack us. At least not easily. And if they ever do, okay, we'll just come back somewhere in one of many ways. Okay, so he moves this way. Now I think we just take the pawn and we say, over to you, buddy. Can carry on. We've got a few minutes of an advantage. We've, I think, stabilized the position. And in the long term, I think our king is a bit safer than his. But it's not clear because this pawn storm could be dangerous if this rook gets involved, etc. But still, we need to get the knight out. Now d2 for the knight still looks like a nice position. But I am now thinking more about knight c3 because knight c3 gives us the option of knight d5, which is not otherwise an option. Now here he's offering a queen trade. Queen trade is probably not something I'm opposed to, but also probably not something I want to do because it helps him get his pieces over towards me. So probably not going to allow that. Maybe I can play this. He can't attack me queen because I take the bishop, but at the same time he could put a rook here, and now my queen could be in some sort of danger, although I can play this move. In that case, he can play this. Don't want my queen to get into danger. There is this, and if he takes, I take back, and then I have a pawn wedged up there. Hard for him to get at, not really. He just plays this move and he's going to get it straight away. So I'll take. And then the issue is going to be this pawn and how I defend it. I defend like this with knight c3, he can play bishop b4, preparing to take that and then win the pawn. And also preparing that if I defend the pawn like this, for example, he still just takes and ruins my pawn structure. So I think what I have to do is probably play knight d2. So now if he plays this bishop b4 idea, attacking my knight, well, I can push this pawn forward, kick him away, and everything's nice. So I think that's pretty stable. I think that's relatively stable. Right, now, what do we do next? This move seems pretty fine, but it's not rushed. It's not a move we need to rush at all. We can do all sorts of things. This move might be nice to prevent the pawn from coming down. If the pawn comes down, we can't really play that move. We could play this move to keep this pawn as a backwards pawn. And that might be well worth trying. Might be a bit dangerous, however. How can he attack this backwards pawn? Well, maybe just like this. If he does that, I take with a tempo. He jumps back and he's going to win one of those pawns back. But then again, this is a kind of a weak pawn in the first place. So if I play this, I get rid of the weak pawn. He comes here. I say congratulations. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. Might even be this move. Then my bishop feels very claustrophobic, but it feels claustrophobic after I put a rook here as well. Don't need to put a rook there, I should add. Could play this move, but then this move might come. And in that case, say I come here, he takes, I take, he takes. Don't love it. Yeah, don't love it. Maybe this move. And then if this I can just take. Alright, I'm going to play this move. Kind of just holding the tension as far as I can tell. Being flexible about whether I play this or this or this. Or possibly even that. Just being a bit flexible. But he's got this backwards pawn, which is a weakness that I'd like to focus on if I could. If I could get a knight here. Maybe like this. But I wouldn't want to play this until the rook was already out. So I don't want to box my rook in. So maybe a rook move like this to defend the pawn. And then knight b1, knight c3, knight d4 attacking the backwards pawn. Maybe something like that has got some potential. This might also work, except that it drops the pawn. So maybe we want to play this move now. It's not clear. I mean, this pawn is well defended. That's a key. That's key. This does not work, because it just gives up the pawn, unfortunately. This bishop can only really move back at the moment. I could play this just to permanently stop this idea. This would also work, but it gives me a backwards pawn. Pawn's probably going to become backwards in the end anyway. Right, so I am looking at this move, really am. Alright. Or even this move, and then looking to play that. I might like that even more. I could play this move immediately, you know, and if he takes, I don't take straight back. If he takes, I put my rook here. And he's got no way to defend the pawn at that point. I like that. let's grab this space. Let's grab this space. Bishop's doing really nice. Now this followed by this pushes his bishop away and gives me a pawn. So actually I think this move was a nice one. C4 here was good because it gets a lot of space. It actually finds a nice square for my rook here on C1. So my knight's still here, protecting the pawn. But now my rook is going to win back the pawn that I just gave. I don't think he's got any way to defend that. Although he could counterattack this pawn. That's worth noting. Yeah, that's probably what I missed, but looks like he's missed that too. So I'll take. And he missed. He missed the key idea, I believe. I believe he missed the key idea. Now maybe I can try this. If he does this, we're just trading everything. That's possible. I can also just take this way. I think that might be even better. You know, like why not? Okay, let's take. Extra defender on B2. And just asking him what he's going to do. Pinning this pawn now. If the bishop moves away somewhere, we might have access to attack this pawn. Maybe we're just going to double rooks here. I'm not saying we're better. If we are, it would be very minimal, I think. I think it's a very even position. We have slightly more time on the clock. Don't think that necessarily matters. Let's try and be a bit creative here and think about what comes next, because this pawn is probably the biggest weakness in our position. It needs to be babysat by the knight or by a rook. So really, if I could get rid of this pawn in a trade for another pawn somehow, I'd love to do that. We have to look at all the checks and captures. So check, he takes, does allow check. Problem is he can take that in so many different ways that it doesn't seem to work yet. But if I ever can give this away in an even trade, so like this pawn for that pawn, I'd love to. I think then I would be very much doing well. Maybe I can trade this pawn for this pawn somehow. For instance, let's say he came here. That would be a blunder because he's not actually attacking my pawn, which is defended. Maybe I could play this move, attacking his bishop and attacking this pawn. Okay, so he comes here, attacking my rook. Now that is interesting to me, because it does push me to attack his pawn, if I want. I can't come here, 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 or here. So at this point I either move back, which is fine, either here, or all the way even. Or I take the knight. If I take the knight and he takes with the pawn, then my pawn here itself has become quite a bit more safe, which is interesting. Actually, if I take and he takes with the bishop, then I don't mind just playing b4 and pushing that pawn majority. But no, because if takes takes, my knight's under attack. I would have to come back here anyway, so I'm kind of thinking of this as this place. This is the place where my rook belongs, but it might also be here. But I kind of think this is the place where my rook now belongs. Although that allows his knight to come here, so maybe it's here instead. Maybe this is where my rook belongs. Problem is then it doesn't defend that. So I think I'm going to put my rook here. Just defend my knight. In case I ever want to play something like this and have my knight defended. Now I can always play this or bring this back. Depends on what he does. Time may well become a factor in this game. We'll see. But again, I think it's pretty even. I think it's pretty even. I don't think he's got the capacity to checkmate me. Even if he jumps his knight down here, where does it go from there? For example, if I then play this rook move. Oh, if I play that rook move, he's got a nice fork. So if he comes here, I can't play this. I don't think. There's no way to escape the fork, is there? No. So if he comes here, maybe I do this. And at that point, he does simply have to, I would think, move the knight back. It might just be a repetition, which I would take. If he comes here and does this, what if he then plays something like this? He's doing it. So if I come here, yeah, I can't come here because then he takes here. At least that's what it looks like at first. But then I can maybe come here. His only escape square is this. Okay. But at the same time, he's not really threatening to take this at the moment. So I could just play this. I think that would be fine. It's a good move of his. Could also consider this move, interestingly, just to try and take once. That opens up my king. Could I consider this? He takes, I take. He takes, I go check. Probably not. What if I just come back here like this? Don't love it. What if we consider this checking move again? Check. Check and he takes. He still has this square very well defended. What if I give this pawn up somehow? Like, ooh, I see. Knight f3. If he takes, I can actually take this pawn with a tempo on his rook. That's what I'm going to do. You can... Oh, no, I don't think I can do that, actually, because after I take, he can take here. So that might have been a small error. Once again, a small little error. Unfortunately. Not the end of the world. I can just come back. This is a threat. Okay, you know what? I gave him a pawn, but as we already knew, that pawn was a very weak pawn anyway. It's a really weak pawn to begin with, so it may not be such a big deal. Can I come here now? With my knight. Or come here with my rook. Where's his knight going to go? Maybe we can play this move. No, that seems a bit risky. How about this? He pushes forward. Don't love that. What about this, attacking the rook? Don't know if I love that. But it could be okay. I don't mind this move. Let's do this and see where he goes. Maybe he comes here, but don't forget, I've got this square really well defended. This fails to the fork. And maybe even if I just give the knight for winning the bishop back. Something like that could work. Maybe I can play some stuff like this just to harass the rook here a bit. He moves. So what if I do? Just harass his rook. Or harass this knight now. He'll then come here. So what about this move? Let's say he comes here. Don't love that. This move. He moves here or here. How about this? Attack this. It probably comes here. And then this. That would be interesting. Got to be really very afraid of this in future. Maybe I just come back, eh? Or attack the knight immediately. Problem with this is this, pinning me. There's this. Take. Might be an option. There's this. Let's try that. So my idea is I'm attacking the knight. You can defend it like this, I suppose. I can attack it again. Then he would have check. I'd have to take. Ooh. I've walked into a pin again, haven't I? And that's a big pin to walk into. Alright, well, I'll take. He takes check. I'll take. Okay, and he's managed to simplify this situation. Does he have enough to win? I'm going to double my rooks. And we're going to see. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe my pawns are actually going to matter. My king and pawns do a good job over here, I think. If I can get my rook over and just push, we might have a chance. Not good, not good. Not good. I kind of have to wait and await my fate or await a chance. If he ever plays this, I'm going to play this, of course. But he probably won't ever play that. If he moves the rook kind of away off the A file, then maybe I can play this. But in the meantime, he's just going to play these moves and overrun me. That's kind of his argument here. I wonder if it's worth giving him this pawn to push there. Probably. Probably don't have much else to do. Could I try something like this? Yeah, if he takes, I take. check even. Take. That's going to be failure. Alright, let's try and get him off the A file. The only chance we have. It's a terrible chance, but... it's the only chance we have. Can't actually get his queen here. And if he does this, I take one pawn. We've got a rook behind a passed pawn here. Goes, takes the queen anyway. Alright. Got to push the passed pawn, and maybe I can get my king up here. It's going to really be the only hope in this game. Now he's going to have to get his king out there. We'll see if I can stop him somehow. We will see. Maybe I'm holding him for a draw, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I am. I'll take that. And it's a draw. What? He resigned? Why on earth did he resign after all that? A terrible game, yeah, look. It's been fun though. First couple games back. Good to be back in the seat. Let's do a computer analysis of this game just to see how crap it was. Look, I don't think it was too bad. I didn't think too much. I made a few obvious mistakes in hindsight, but we'll just see how it went. We played the exchange. Yep. Version of the Ruy Lopez. Took with the queen, that was fine. Beyond that, f4 wasn't great, but yeah, the bishop move was fine. Knight g6 was a nice response, and f4 was speculative. Probably should have just brought the bishop back, yeah, and then everything was doing fine. But anyway, next up, I wonder if here what I should have done was actually there's a check and then my queen's nice and active. Yeah, okay, I don't think that's the biggest deal, but let's move on. In particular in this game, moments I thought were important were when I played c4. I really liked that move. That was very lucky. Rook c1 I thought was an inaccuracy because after I played it I realized maybe he could have played the rook over here. Yeah, that would have been a good response, and then even though I take my pawn back, he also captures this one. But he missed that. He played it incorrectly, and even here I actually should have grabbed the space, deadened his bishop. This pawn's not going anywhere, but I took. And then after he took, move back, that was fine. Jumping in there was a mistake, so you'll see in the game I did not play this move, because that would lead to this fork. So instead, I moved my knight out here, giving him the pawn. What I thought was going to happen here was I could play this move. Given that this is pinned, he can't take. Now I see I could have played this, because even though he takes the bishop, I then have this beautiful fork, and I did miss that. But had I played this way, you see this would have been a winning move. So that was actually a really lovely idea. Oh, well, it was good that I saw that, it was nice that I saw that actually this knight does not need to remain here in order to defend the pawn. It can, in fact, come here, and the pawn remains defended because of the counterattack. But I failed to see that then after this there would be a nice fork. Very nice. Other than that, fast forward back to where we were. Got into this endgame where I was clearly worse, like a lot worse, and there was just nothing I could do. And I decided, you know what, my only possibility is if I can mobilize my pawns over here. There's really no other chance. So I gave the g-pawn, which he eventually took. Again, he's totally winning, but now that I play a4, and I start pushing my pawns, he pushed one step too far, and now, according to the computer, we're actually in a drawn position, because I can prevent him from getting his queen, and I have this pressure going on. So now I'm okay, and I felt okay, or I felt like I might be okay. And we pushed, and here I just thought it was a draw because I thought he's going to have to bring his king up here to capture my pawn. We'll trade rooks. In the meantime, my king will get up here, take his pawns, and I'll never promote this pawn because his king will be back defending by then. So I thought it's probably a draw, and it is. But at this point, he moves away. I take the pawn, and I think it's got to still be a draw because he's just going to take this, and then I'm going to go check. When he moves, I'll take this, and we're not going to checkmate each other, put it that way. But he just resigned instead. Anyway, that'll do me for now. It's nice to see you all. We'll see you again soon. Hopefully playing some better chess soon.